very subtle styling cues mark out the ultimate small Tesla hatch, this one, the Model Y Performance. Powers up to 483 brake horsepower, and the 62 mph sprint takes just 3.5 seconds. This is an EV on a mission.
You'll have seen many Tesla Model Ys on the roads. It's the brand's best seller, but very few of them will have been this top flagship performance version, which has only a few exterior detail changes to mark it out from any normal dual motor long range Model Y. It goes a fair bit faster though, so it'll be the variant of choice for anyone seeking Model Y motoring to the max. Tesla's gradually been improving its prowess when it comes to R&D, and the result is that its latest cars ride and handle to a significantly higher standard. Try the improved Model 3, this car's saloon counterpart, for proof of that. But can this top Model Y showcase that here? Well, you'll need the usual comprehensive car and driving review to find out. It's the fashion among EVs these days for a little combustion-like linearity in the way they accelerate. But Tesla doesn't follow fashion, and this car simply hurls itself away from rest, especially in this top performance form. That's because your right foot is commanding 483 braked horses, 49 more than in the standard long-range version. As in that lesser variant, electric motors propel you from both front and rear axles, creating the car's dual motor all-wheel drive system, producing 575 Nm of torque and dispatching the 62 mph sprint in just 3.5 seconds, 1.3 seconds quicker than the standard version. Tesla's also disdained the current fashion for limiting top speed on EVs. This one will cruise on the Autobahn at up to 155 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour more than the standard variant. The Model Y doesn't have a sport drive mode, and it clearly doesn't need one. The ordinary standard setting quite enough to bring up your breakfast and attract the constabulary's attention if you engage too frequently in repeated right foot flexes. Better, if you can, to chill, quite literally, because that's the name of the second, more laid-back setting that'll better preserve that all-important drive range figure. It's officially quoted 319 miles for this performance version. That's 12 miles less than the ordinary long-range derivative manages, but that's still very good by class standards. It doesn't take many miles behind the wheel of this car to realise that there are clearly things in vehicle development that Tesla prioritises, stuff like drive range and acceleration. And equally obviously, there seems to be areas the brand feels deserve less attention. We would number ride quality and refinement amongst these. High-speed undulations don't seem to trouble this Model Y very much, but it struggles much more than a car of this price should at lower speeds over poor surfaces. And unfortunately, it can't be embellished with the kind of adaptive damping system that Tesla doesn't want to offer at this price point. A performance spec Model 3 like this is perhaps primarily recognisable by its lowered suspension and larger 21-inch Uber turbine wheels, through the spokes of which you glimpse the red calipers of the uprated performance braking system. At the rear, a neat carbon fibre spoiler has been added. Otherwise, there are no visual differences between this variant and an ordinary Model Y. Let's take a look inside. Where the performance spec upgrade is equally subtle, limited to a set of aluminium alloy pedals. Otherwise, it's just as in an ordinary Model Y, which means it's more minimalist than a Scandinavian loft. Well, in terms of button clutter anyway, there's nothing minimalist about this enormous 15-inch central touchscreen, onto which virtually all the comfort, infotainment and driving features you'll need have been located, including those you'd normally find in a conventional instrument cluster. Here missing too. Beyond this, operating control provision has been kept to the absolute minimum. Don't bother looking for a gear stick, a starter button, a handbrake switch, or physical ventilation controls. Even the vents themselves are pretty hidden. Tesla also thought about getting rid of steering wheel stalks, as it has done on the latest Model 3 and its larger cars, but they're reluctantly retained here, the left one for indicators and the right for gear selection. Otherwise, you're limited to a couple of unmarked scroll wheels on the steering wheel spokes. Beyond this, operating control provision has been kept to the absolute minimum, which is all well and good, but a potential premium segment European buyer of this car is ideally going to want such minimality to be accompanied by the kind of cabin quality and richness of interior design that the posh German brands offer. You don't really get that here, but compensatory technology is absolutely dripping from every menu and pinch and swipe action accessible through this enormously capable central screen. There's a superb Google Earth navigation system, all the usual infotainment stuff, and even arcade games. The driving position sits you a little higher than the segment norm, and the lack of central transmission tunnel frees up loads of space for useful extra stowage compartments. Getting in and out via these pillarless doors is easier than in a comparable Model 3 because of the taller body. Get inside, and the first thing you might notice here is the completely flat floor. The usual transmission tunnel's not needed, of course, because there's no mechanical transmission. Even better, there's much more room than is usually provided for a centre-seated passenger to slide their shoes forward beneath this jutting console with its twin vents. True, you'll rarely need this central pew to be occupied, but the space provided for it adds to the airy feel already created by the rear quarter lights and primarily by this huge, standard panoramic glass roof. At the rear, there's a decently sized 854-litre boot, extendable to 2,100 litres in size if you fold the rear seats down. You also get 117 litres of extra space under the bonnet. At the time of this test in early spring 2024, prices were starting at around £60,000 for this top performance version of the Model Y, around £7,000 more than the ordinary long-range dual-motor all-wheel drive variant. Obvious EV performance rivals include the Polestar 2 dual-motor all-wheel drive performance pack, which at the time of filming cost around £58,000. The Kia EV6 GT, as we filmed, that was around £63,000. The Hyundai Ioniq 5N, which as we filmed, cost around £65,000. And the Genesis GV60 dual motor all-wheel drive Sport Plus, around £68,000. And the Ford Mustang Mach-E GT, around £75,000. In our design section, we told you about the exterior and cabin embellishments that come with performance spec, while in our driving section, we referenced this performance model's extra power and top speed increase from 135 to 155 miles an hour. As on other Model Ys, standard equipment includes all the usual executive niceties. And there's a forward-facing radar that scans the road 160 metres ahead as you drive, providing a long-range view of distant objects. A 360-degree camera system makes parking easier as well. And you can certainly have plenty of luxury features, things like a 14-speaker premium audio system, 12-way power-adjustable leather front seats, and a tinted panoramic glass roof with ultraviolet and infrared protection. Safety should be a strong point. Tesla says the Model Y is designed to be the safest vehicle in its class. The low centre of gravity, rigid body structure and large crumple zones provide strong protection. And like all new Teslas, this one comes as standard with emergency braking, collision warning, blind spot monitoring and lots more. And in future, the brand promises that the Model Y will have full self-driving capability, enabling automatic driving on city streets and highways pending regulatory approval, as well as the ability to come and find you anywhere in a car park. Amazing. We gave you the driving range figure for this performance variant in our driving section, 319 miles, which is quite a way behind the 331 mile figure of the mechanically almost identical dual motor version. Owning a Model Y will of course be very different from owning a conventionally powered compact to mid-sized SUV. There'll be no fuel bills of course, and servicing costs will be much smaller. The annual service fee covers an annual inspection, replacement parts like brake pads and windscreen wipers, 24-hour roadside assistance, system monitoring, remote diagnostics, software updates, and new features sent through the touchscreen. Tesla reckons that from empty to full, an 11 kilowatt wall box would replenish a Model Y 75 kilowatt hour battery in about 7.5 hours, but the 7.4 kilowatt wall box more owners are likely to have needs 12 hours. The Model Y is compatible with the US brand's third generation public superchargers, which are capable of 250 kilowatt charging. Hooked up to one of these, your Model Y will be able to recover 75 miles of range in 5 minutes, or up to 168 miles in 15 minutes, with a peak charging rate equivalent to 1,000 miles for every hour. A supercharger station or a DC public rapid charger needs 27 minutes to charge the car from empty to 80%. Tesla currently has more than 50,000 superchargers globally across 36 countries, with 1,400 of those in the UK. The brand's supercharger network has a 99.5% uptime figure, and costs are around 50 pence per kilowatt hour. The Model Y Performance isn't one of those hot hatch models that feels a completely different animal to its humbler showroom stablemates. Maybe it should be, but Tesla's not quite ready to build us a car quite like that just yet. So don't think of it as a Model S Plaid is to a Model S. It's more a Model Y with a bit more of everything. Well, everything except pavement stand-apart presents. No one will notice that you've bought or leased anything other than a very well specified Model Y. Not until you leave them for dead at the traffic lights anyway. And if that's what you want, then in this car, Tesla offers quite a performance.